We would like to welcome all the veterans and guests to the Forest Hills Junior-Senior High School Veterans Day Assembly. It is the belief here in the Forest Hills School District that we honor those who have asked of so little but have given so much. Today in our assembly, we would like to recognize the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country. We would like to start today's assembly with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our local Boy Scouts, followed by the singing of the national anthem performed by the Forest Hills Chorus. Could you please rise, remove your hats, and turn your attention to the flag at the front of the assembly. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say when you see o'er the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, sunshines and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red blaze that once bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The Noble and the Brave, a Veterans Day Tribute by Joanna Fuchs. When America had an urgent need, these brave ones raised a hand. No hesitation held them back. They were proud to take a stand.
They left their friends and family. They gave up normal life. To serve their God and country, they plowed into the strife.
They fought for freedom and for peace on strange and foreign shores. Some lost new friends, some lost their lives in long and brutal wars.
Other veterans answered a call to support the ones who fought. Their country had requirements for the essential skills they brought.
We salute every one of them, the noble and the brave, the ones still with us here today and the ones who rest in a grave.
So here's to our country's heroes that are cut above the rest. Let's give the honor that is due to our country's very best.
The history of Veterans Day. While many realize that Veterans Day, which always falls on November 11th, is a day to honor our veterans, few realize the historical significance behind the day. Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day and marked the end of hostilities of World War I that occurred at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. Therefore, the day is always recognized on November 11th, regardless of the day of the week the 11th falls on. The day was originally set aside to honor the veterans of World War I with a day of parades and remembrances, as well as a pause in activities at 11 a.m. on that day. However, after World War II and the Korean War, Congress recognized the need to expand the meaning of the day to recognize all of our veterans and not just those of World War I. In 1954, the word armistice was replaced with veterans as a way to formally include all veterans of all American wars in this day of remembrance. Veterans Day is a day not only to remember those who died in service to our country, but also to recognize those who continue to serve today. We, the students of Forest Hills Junior-Senior High School, encourage all Americans to say thank you to those who fulfill this patriotic duty to maintain the freedoms of our country.
We have gathered here today to honor the brave men and women who have fought to keep our country free. We would now like to honor those veterans associated with the Forest Hills family.
John McMullen, Army, escorted by Owen McMullen.
Timothy Mutery, Army, escorted by Bailey Johns, Tristan Mutery, and Lila Bretto.
Roger Miller, Army, escorted by Tanner Plummer.
Keith Johns, Marines, escorted by Autumn Hedrick and Kylie Johns.
Stephen Andrikovich, Army, escorted by Emily and Healy Myers.
Ryan Wolfhope, Army, escorted by Hannah McKnight.
Eric Dibble, Army, escorted by Madeline Dibble.
Josh Emmerich, Navy, escorted by Kirsten and Madison Emmerich.
Stephen Estick, Air Force, escorted by Haley Holdsworth.
Herbert Farabaugh, Army, escorted by Aiden and Brooke Martinage.
Denton Lester, Army, escorted by Avery Smiech.
Samuel George, Air Force, escorted by Violet Estock.
James Wagner, Marines, escorted by Libby Gordon.
Timothy Miller, Army, escorted by Trenton Miller.
Ralph Glessner, Air Force, escorted by Kelsey Josephson.
Lena Yatsky and Sean Yatsky, both Navy. Paul Yatsky, Army, escorted by Michael, Sean, Dallas, and Dalton Yatsky.
Mike Gustke, Marines, escorted by Bailey Frampton and Kylie Toman.
Keith Rager, Marines, escorted by Julia Chunta.
Robert McGregor, Army, escorted by Todd and Alex McGregor.
John Peel, Army, escorted by Summer Silvis and Aaron Wright.
Paul Klein, Army, escorted by Caitlin Kurtz.
Brenda Burkett, Navy, escorted by Caitlin Burkett.
Timothy Troy Sr., Army, escorted by George and Matthew Rosum.
Paul Troy, Army, escorted by Melanie and Amber Troy.
John Schrift, Army, escorted by Kayla Clifford.
Michael Yonerich, Army, escorted by Robert Yonerich.
John Pauley, Navy, escorted by Tyler and Ashley Pauley.
Robert Endler, Army, escorted by Darren Rogers.
Aaron Evans, Army, escorted by Madison Simmons.
Chuck Schmidt, Navy, escorted by Brady and Haley Christ.
Brian Heelman, Marines, escorted by Paige Heelman.
Brandy West, Air Force, escorted by Nadia Daubert.
Heather Dombrowski, Army, escorted by Addison, Taylor, and Maddox Dombrowski.
Ronald Schrift, Army, escorted by Maria Felix.
Donald Yeckley, Ken Schmidt, both Army, escorted by Zachary Spisak and Dylan Schmidt.
Dana Waldrop, Army, and Albert Dutzman, Air Force, escorted by Shaden Waldrop.
Ed Spenda, Army, and Kevin Rager, Navy, escorted by Josh Zargoza.
Laird Rager, Army, escorted by Mrs. Charles.
Mike Brozig and Bernard Brozig, Army and Air Force, escorted by Mr. Sackmar.
Tom Swanhart and Dave Patrick, Army, escorted by Mr. Grove.
Kirk Bearjar, Navy, escorted by Kirk Bearjar.
Patrick McCaughey, Army, escorted by Maya Geraro.
Patrick Dumm, Air Force, escorted by Danielle and Delaney Dumm.
Gary Smith, Air Force, escorted by Jordan Smith.
Barbara Stropman, Army, escorted by Harmony Hoggart.
Robert Lautenbacher, Marines, escorted by Kara Lautenbacher.
Gerald Dusick, Army, escorted by Gabriel Guigno.
Travis Whitehead, Navy, escorted by Shannon Elgin.
Eugene Miller, Army, escorted by Gracie Wright.
Patricia Bjornberg, Air Force, escorted by Alexia Bjornberg.
Ray McCloskey, Army, escorted by Michaela Drobnik.
Andy Warfel, Army, escorted by Anna and Gus Warfel.
Mike Valco, Marines, escorted by Rosalie DePola, Tony DePola, Jackson Arrington, and Anna Arrington. Lynn Bordis, Marines, escorted by Kieran and Lucas Deloach and Toby Wilt. Dennis Plummer and Wilma Plummer, both Army, escorted by Mrs. Raptosh.
Joe Parch, Navy, escorted by Joey, Jace, and Jaden Parch.
Carl Rummel, Army, escorted by Jackson Rummel.
Dennis Gramling, Army, escorted by Madison Gramling.
James Endler, Air Force, escorted by Seth Richardson.
Doug Ryhard, Air Force, escorted by Gage Jones.
George Selapak, Army, escorted by Alexis Detweiler.
Richard Fye, Navy, escorted by Mary Plummer.
Jack Bodenschatz, Air Force, escorted by Sarah Bodenschatz.
Ken Thomas, Navy, and Dennis Kobaugh, Army, escorted by Ashton Kobaugh.
John Mikulik, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Bob Clifford, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Mark Yatsky, Navy, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
John Bassett, Army, escorted by Barb Mohorek.
Lewis Brown, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
John Evans, Air Force, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Gary Kuiper, Navy, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Ron Richards, Navy, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Ed Myers, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Jack Smith, Navy, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Ed Hogue, Coast Guard, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
George Morgan, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Mr. Nealon, Army. Mr. Saka, Army.
Mr. Wozniak, Army.
Charles Kanan, Navy, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Paul Zimmer, Army, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Robert Habercorn, Air Force, escorted by a Forest Hills student.
Thank you. Veterans Day by Cheryl Dyson. On Veterans Day, we honor all who answered to a service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died, and all of them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought through many days and nights. And though we may not know each name, we thank all veterans just the same.
We would again like to thank the veterans for taking time out of their day to join us, the Forest Hills Junior Senior High School Veterans Day Assembly. It is not government or politics or heads of the state that defend our great country. It is you, the brave men and women, who, without hesitation, put your life on the line and continue to provide us freedom. For that, we thank you. To conclude our assembly, we would like to honor our veterans with a 21-gun salute, performed by the St. Michael American Legion, and taps, performed by Michaela Miller and Daniel Velasquez.
At this time, let's have a nice big round of applause for all veterans, past and present. This celebration is well-deserved, and it gets bigger every year. On behalf of Dr. Lehman, Mr. Jacobs, and the entire Forest Hills School Board, Mr. Vassis and Mr. Costin and I would like to thank you all for taking part in this wonderful assembly. A special thanks to our incredible faculty, staff, and outstanding students at Forest Hills. Thank you.